A common apologetic tactic is to cite the high odds of the universe occurring by random chance in precisely the right way for life to exist.
From galaxies and stars, down to atoms and subatomic particles, the very structure of our universe is determined by these numbers. These are the fundamental constants and quantities of the universe. Scientists have come to the shocking realization that each of these numbers has been carefully dialed to an astonishingly precise value, a value that falls within an exceedingly narrow, life-permitting range. If any one of these numbers were altered by even a hair's breadth, no physical, interactive life of any kind could exist anywhere.
This has already been widely refuted by pointing out two important facts. Number one, life arose as a result of the conditions of the universe. The universe did not arise with the goal of supporting life. And number two, given multiverse theory, there could be an infinite number of parallel universes. That would be an infinite number that did not have the fine-tuning necessary for life, and an infinite number that did. We happen to live in one that did. Another common odds are too great argument is the junkyard argument, in which apologists offer up a variation of the typing monkeys argument, to show that evolution or abiogenesis is statistically foolish. The original argument says that if you had an infinite number of monkeys, each typing for infinity, eventually they would, by sheer random chance, type the complete works of Shakespeare. As an aside, I recently had my mind blown by an article in an astronomy magazine, in which an astronomer claimed that if we live in a flat universe, as is now the prevailing theory, that would make the dimensions of the universe infinite. And if they were infinite, there would be an infinite number of exact duplicates of our planet and all its inhabitants. Anyway, the junkyard argument is expressed here by Josh Feuerstein.
What if I were to tell you that somewhere in Oklahoma a tornado rolls through a junkyard full of a bunch of old cars, and somewhere on the other side of that tornado, out of that junk pile, it magically produces a perfectly red, shiny, working Lamborghini? You would tell me I was nuts. You would tell me that I had lost it. You would probably try to admit me into the psychiatric ward. Why? Because that is absolutely stupid. I mean, how much faith would it really take to believe something as idiotic as that?
This argument is designed to make the theory of evolution look ridiculous by pointing out the incredibly long odds of a Lamborghini forming by chance. On the face of it, the actual components of this hypothetical scenario are sound, so Feuerstein murders his own case right in the starting blocks. If it was possible, simply by whizzing random elements around, then allowing them to settle, to manufacture all the required parts for a Lamborghini, then given enough tornadoes and enough time, the tornado would indeed eventually and inevitably produce a complete Lamborghini. Without realising it, Feuerstein, supposedly one of the most respected YouTube apologists, resorts to perhaps the weakest and easiest to refute argument for God, namely the appeal to incredulity. He's basically saying that the odds of life occurring by evolution are simply too great for him to accept, therefore God. Of course, he deliberately hobbles the argument by turning it into a single tornado, which of course increases the already astronomical odds into an even higher value. Now here's all the ways his argument fails. Number one, his argument is random, evolution is not. This is by far the most important. Evolution is not random. Traits that are beneficial for survival and reproduction or propagation are selected for by evolution. Traits which increase survival odds are more likely to continue. So, for example, in a world where carnivores are a danger, traits such as longer legs, better respiratory systems and higher intelligence will give a species a greater chance of survival. Those organisms that have mutations that improve those traits would have an advantage over those that do not, increasing their chance of reproduction. Over time, these traits become magnified and the species as a whole becomes smarter, longer-legged and with superior respiration. To apply this to the junkyard argument, as the tornado swirled all the raw material around, each time parts that were more Lamborghini-like appeared, they would be saved and used as a template for further building. Feuerstein's example limits the scope of mutation to the lifespan of a single tornado. Evolution has had 3.5 billion years over which to operate. Although mutations are present within every single organism, the process by which advantageous configurations of mutations propagate to create species-wide change are generally slow. although they can be observed using selective breeding and/or fast reproducing organisms. This is why most creationists will create an artificial distinction between macro and micro evolution. They cannot dispute that dogs or bananas can be forced to change by selective breeding. They label this small-scale in-species change as microevolution. However, even though a clear genetic and fossil lineage can be drawn between, say, quadrupedal land mammals such as Pakicetus and whales, they then refuse to accept that animals can change beyond their kind, using what they pejoratively label macroevolution. They will use phrases like dogs remain as dogs and use silliness like the asinine crocoduck argument to try to ridicule a theory. When presented with a clear fossil record that shows a long transition from one kind to another, they then quibble over the validity of the fossil record, definitions of kinds, and just about anything else that they can in order to deny the crass stupidity of their position. To return to the Lamborghini, whilst it is statistically incredibly unlikely that a fully formed vehicle could be thrown out by the results of a single tornado, if all the other components and other requirements exist, it is at least possible. And bear in mind that when creationists mock abiogenesis or evolution as being a fantastically unlikely long shot, you must times those odds by the number of occasions that possible interactions are occurring. For instance, if you throw a six-sided dice, your odds of achieving a 6 are 1 in 6 each and every throw. However, if I tell you in advance that I will roll the dice 100 times a second for a month, then your odds rise to almost certainty. Likewise, if you increase the number of tornadoes to infinity, then all other things being possible, a Lamborghini would also become a certainty. In other words, if the chances of X happening are 1 in Y, then X is possible. Moreover, given an infinite number of chances, infinity divided by Y creates a 100% chance of X. Number 3. Calculating odds in reverse. This construction of an argument is another fundamental piece of sophistry on behalf of Feuerstein and other apologists who, I am certain, are smart enough to understand the concept, yet still continue to abuse statistics to argue their point incorrectly. If you ask me in advance of the lottery, what are the chances of you buying a single lottery ticket in Britain and winning the jackpot, your odds are around 1 in 50 million. This is the position that Feuerstein is arguing, and it fits his ridiculous junkyard scenario. However, this is not the nature of evolution. No matter how unlikely the chance of any specific individual winning the lottery was, once you have won it, your odds are 100%. Regardless of how unlikely the chances of life arriving from non-life were, the fact is, it occurred. So the chance of life existing now is 100%.
You really think it's going to blow?
This can't be happening.
Look, nothing's going to happen. They're just here as a precaution. The whole ship's full of fail-safes anyway. Coolant systems, containment panels, vacuum shields. The actual chances of it blowing are about 1 in...
For Feuerstein's example to have meaning, he'd have to start with a junkyard in which a Lamborghini had already been assembled by a tornado. Number 4. Is it within the laws of possibility? This is more of a pedantic technical argument than a necessary philosophical one. The first 3 refutations have already blown this argument out of the water. However, in calculating the odds of an event occurring at some point in the future, it first has to be possible. Can the components of a Lamborghini be assembled, even by chance, without human intervention? Did the car parts, chemical or atomic components, exist in the junkyard? Do the laws of physics allow them to simply bind together using wind pressure alone? This is a trivial point within the junkyard argument, but it assumes all-encompassing importance when examining the fine-tuning argument, which is a superset of this line of apologetic argumentation. People cite the astronomically tiny amount by which any of the universal constants would need to change to prevent the universe from even existing. But is it even possible for them to change by that much, or at all? For instance, if you place a ball at the foot of a cliff 10 feet in front of you, then create a theoretical scale from you to the ball and beyond, you could describe the ball as being 1% along that scale. But if that ball is not capable of being 1% further, then its range of possible locations is merely from 0 to 1%. Perhaps there was no physical possibility for the gravitational constant to change by any percentage that would have prevented the formation of the universe. In other words, you need to know what the factors are in determining the odds. If I asked you what your odds of rolling a 6 without first telling you how many sides the die has, you have no possible answer other than somewhere between 1 and infinity. In conclusion, the junkyard argument is nothing but a piece of theatre performed by Christian conmen who are intelligent enough to understand its flaws, but use it to fool those less intelligent than themselves. They are doing precisely what spiritual leaders have been doing for more than 5,000 years, trying to baffle the world with bullshit. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please take the time to rate and comment, and it would mean a lot to me if you would subscribe. Thank you.